growing up in LA and kind of watching Kobe win these championships and watch his demeanor and how he goes about, his whole Mamba mentality, Aaron very much reminds me of him. Aaron demands perfection, and you need to take it upon yourself to be perfect.
13 seasons of professional football can go by in a flash, and I was grateful for every second of it. This game gave me everything, not without taking a few pieces of me along with it. Playing offensive line, it's been one of the most rewarding and fulfilling experiences of my life. Now, thanks to Audible, I look forward to sharing insights and stories with you of our favorite NFL stars and, of course, the fraternity of athletes that protect them. Offensive linemen are eternally bonded, and I am proud to forever be a part of the Blocking Brotherhood. I'm Ryan Khalil, and this is Block Forever. Welcome back to the show, my friends. So glad you're here. I have to admit, I did not know what I was getting into when I first created this show, but it's been incredibly fun. I've really gotten to enjoy getting to meet a lot of current players that I admire but don't know a lot about, and also reconnecting with the many great players that I played with and against during my career. It's just been an absolute blast for me. On today's show, I'm talking to a future Hall of Famer. This is a guy I played with in college that was a nightmare to deal with on the practice field, and then later I had to try to figure out how to block in the pros. I'm talking about Green Bay Packer legend William Clay Matthews, or just Clay Matthews, aka the Claymaker. Now, most of you probably remember Clay as this super disruptive linebacker with incredible speed and a knack for the ball, and of course his flowing locks of hair. But before the Hall of Fame career, before the golden locks of hair, Clay was a walk-on at USC, which I didn't even realize for some time when we played together because he didn't carry himself like a walk-on. Now, he looked like a walk-on, but he certainly didn't practice like one. In my mind, Clay is the epitome of what hard work and determination can lead to. He literally willed his way into the National Football League. He's also a really great guy, which you're about to find out. Before I forget, as always, reminder, tune into Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime. This week, Trevor Lawrence, Jacksonville. They're traveling to MetLife to face the Jets. Jets trying to make a final push for the first postseason appearance in over a decade, I think. Should be a good one. And now, my one-on-one interview with the one and only Clay Matthews. Hey, really quick, Clay, what's the beeping noise? Is that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that my email thing going on?
Yeah, I think it's your email. Yeah.
How do I turn?
Or do you know how to do the do not disturb thing?
No, how do I do that?
If you right click on your email and just hit quit, that should turn it off.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I hear you. Let me do that. This is my first podcast ever doing, so I don't do a lot of media, so I have no idea what to do. Where's my mail?
This is your first time on a computer, apparently, too.
God damn it. Hey, so are we recording yet or no?
Yeah, we just started. Do you want to stop?
No. I was just curious.
Okay. All right, good. All right, you ready? Should we do it?
Yeah.
Clay Travis Matthews. No, that's not your name. Mm-mm. What's your middle name?
My middle name is Clay, as a matter of fact.
What's your first name?
William.
I did not know that. There's a lot I didn't know about you. Before this interview, I started Googling. You're like me. You're a SoCal kid. You grew up in Agoura Hills?
Yeah, that's correct.
Obviously, you came from a football family. Was your dad still playing when you were little?
Yeah, so my earliest memories, so my dad played 16 years for Cleveland. For any listeners who aren't familiar with my background, he played 16 years for Cleveland and 3 years for the Falcons in Atlanta. So I have vague memories of those Cleveland days, but I specifically remember his final 3 years in Atlanta. I remember, I think I was between the ages of 8 to 10, and we would go to the games. We'd be in the first row. After a win, my dad would take us on the field. We run around and play football. And I remember going into the locker room and we walk out with just handfuls of gum. And I walked out with Eric Metcalf's cleats one time, and we'd walk out with big balls of tape, I think from like Craig Hayward, Ironhead Hayward. And to answer your question, it was business as usual. Everyone else's parents went to work Monday through Friday. Mine just, I guess he did as well. As you're familiar, there are no days off, but he would just, perform on Sunday. So that's kind of how I grew up. And I think when I was 10 is when he retired. That was 96. And then he just transitioned immediately into coaching me. So it's just been very much a football family. I know it's obviously cliche, but it's very much true.
I mean, what was that like playing football and being the son of a dad who did it at the highest level?
Well, I think ultimately in the long run, it was a positive because he had played at the highest level, and not only played at the highest level, but excelled for almost 2 decades. And for him to kind of pass down that knowledge to me at such a young age, just the fundamentals of the game. And, he's telling you about wheel route concepts and 3-7-9 routes and this and that. But I never felt the pressure to kind of follow in his footsteps. He was really good. And I don't know if he made it a conscious decision to not, be the Tiger Woods dad, so to speak. Try and make me into this 5-star recruit, blue chip athlete. He allowed me to do whatever it is that I wanted to do as long as I saw it through and, gave it my all. But naturally, as a son, I think some of our biggest role models are our fathers, and I wanted to be just like him. So that's why I kind of stuck with the football path and continue going down that route.
What'd you play? You played linebacker, yeah?
I played linebacker and tight end. I sucked, Ryan, just being completely frank with it. I
wasn't very. I was a 2.5, 3-star guy. What are you talking about?
Oh, I didn't have a star.
I didn't SC.
I didn't even have a profile on Rivals or whatever it was called.
You had the generic.
It was a silhouette that said like NA. Like just not there. And they give you like a star just because they know like you're now in the system, but there's no articles, there's no sweet photo at the combines that I wasn't invited to. So I wasn't very good, but a lot of that was due to the fact that I went through puberty so late. I was the kid who wouldn't wear the cut off sleeves because I had no armpit hair when I was bench pressing. So it was after my junior year. I didn't start. And then my dad was my D coordinator, so go figure. But obviously, that was the right choice. I wasn't very good. But between my junior to senior year, I grew like 3 to 4 inches and put on like 40 pounds. I just absolutely skyrocketed. But I was still so gangly and skinny. I mean, you saw me when I walked on at SC. I was, just maybe 210, 215. So I went from like 160 to that 210 frame. And it allowed me to kind of take that next step to be a very good high school player, but not quite good enough to hang at the next level, or at least get interest from scouts, coaches at the next level, especially at SC, which is obviously where I ended up at with you, because they were just rolling at the time. They got guys from Florida to Hawaii, and if you weren't a 5-star, it was difficult to get recruited there.
Okay, so you walked on to SC. Why did you walk on? What was pushing you to go, you know what, I'm going to go to SC and I'm going to be a walk-on here?
Well, first of all, I didn't have any offers. I remember when I got there and it was, day one of training camp. So I'm meeting these guys for the first time and they're like, oh, what offers did you have? And I remember I just straight up lied to them. I'm like, Arizona State. I'm thinking of like lower tier schools where they could look at me and be like, oh yeah, I could see. I'm not going to say like Michigan State, Ohio State. So I remember lying to them just so I could fit in. But to answer your question, I didn't have any offers. And then, SC is where my father had played at, my uncle had played at, my mom went to, as we just touched on, my older brother went there, my older sister went there, and it was right down the road from where I grew up, and they were rolling at the time. So naturally, I'm like, oh, I just want to go to SC, and I wasn't thinking, can I get a scholarship? Can I do this, that? It was just more so just having a place on the team, and then we'll let the cards fall where they may. So that's the extent of all the knowledge that went into that decision. So that's how I ended up there.
So then if that was your mindset just to be there, why were you causing so much problems on the scout team for the rest of us? Well, I remember, by the way, I didn't know you were a walk-on. My very early memory of you is I was just like, what is this guy's deal? Just relentless, every practice, making us look bad. I remember we would be watching film from practice and just get absolutely verbally assaulted because we were letting this walk-on from Agora Hills beat us. Where did that come from? Like what sort of like snapped in you that you were going to play the way you did? Or did you sort of have a chip on your shoulder where you were sort of like, I'm going to show these guys why I should have been recruited, why I should have been offered a scholarship?
I think being on the scout team, you run around with some characters. You had some guys who were, freshmen or sophomores who were kind of working their way up, had to wait, their turn to switch, to the other side. But for the most part, it was just a lot of walk-ons. And it was guys who were happy to be on the team, happy to have a jersey. And in no way is this I'm not taking anything away from any walk-on. I mean, I was a walk-on, but ultimately, it was kind of like practice was our time to shine, so to speak, because we weren't going to play on Saturday. We just weren't good enough, big enough, tall, whatever it was. Didn't have the talent. And so for me, when we were out there, I just had so much fun doing that. Now at first, training camp, that sucked and everything because, you're the tackling dummy, you're this, you're that. But once we got into the season and I think it was red shirts. I think we were the red shirts. Red shirts are black shirts. And they'd give us that jersey and we'd play the opposing, hey, we're playing, UCLA this week. So you're going to play this edge rusher, this linebacker. So I think we had fun doing that. And then because Pete promoted such an atmosphere of competitiveness that if we could get over on the first team offense, going against the likes of you and, Matt Leinart and Reggie, Lendale, I mean, you name it, just first rounders up and down the board. I mean, it meant so much to us. But I think more so than that, every year that I was there, I found myself getting incrementally better. I was putting in the work in the weight room. I was doing things the right way. I showed up maybe at 220. Then the next year's 225. My speed was going up. My strength was going up. We were putting in work in the off season and those 6 o'clock workouts. And I felt like I was coming along, and I slowly worked my way to the end of the season when we're playing Vince Young in Texas in the Rose Bowl. I was on, I think, punt and kickoff and maybe like a kickoff return. I was almost on all the special teams. And I had a knack for it too, because it's all I did. And I figured, why not be the best at it? I'm playing maybe 15, 20 plays a game, and then still on the scout team. And I think I just, I felt myself becoming, a better athlete, and I was having more success on the field, and it naturally grew. I think playing against the likes of, like I said, against you guys, it only, iron sharpens iron. I know it's cliche, but ultimately it's what made us better, were those practices and that atmosphere of competition.
At what point then did you realize the same thing I did, which is like, this kid, I don't know how he got missed or why he's not on scholarship, but he belongs. At what point in your career did you finally go, you know what, I'm going to take this a little bit more serious?
The following year, which was my fourth year, my redshirt junior year, we opened up against Idaho. Now I realize it's Idaho, but now Cushing was playing in front of me, Brian Cushing, who was a fantastic, college athlete and had a tremendous NFL career at linebacker as well. So he took the starting reins at the same position. So now I'm behind, another 5-star all-world blue chip athlete. But I remember coming in off the bench in some of these blowout victories, and I was playing really well. But I remember specifically, it was my senior year. Another 5-star recruit came in, Everson Griffin. And I remember Pete saying he could play in the NFL as a freshman. So I had no chance of starting my 5th year, but I was playing very well. And first game we opened up against Virginia, and I take off. I think I have sack, forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries, TFLs. We play Ohio State the next week. I think we win 35-3. Sack, forced fumble, TFL. We go up to Oregon State on Thursday, and we end up losing. But I had another terrific game. I know we lost, but us Matthews were on the side afterwards celebrating. I blocked a field goal. I didn't get a sack, but I flung the quarterback down. I was just in one of those zones. And I remember I spoke with my dad that weekend, and he says, "Hey, you need to go in and talk with Pete and tell him you need to be starting." That's an uncomfortable position to be in, coming from a walk-on. Sure. And we're playing for the number 1 team in the nation at the time, and you just walk-ons don't start. You know, it's these five-star recruits, and you remember we'd start the practice through those high knees drills and whatnot, and then we immediately go to walkthrough of these like 30 plays of what we're putting in. And Pete looks at me and he says, "Hey Clay," he goes, "you're in there with the ones. Don't let me down." And I remember looking at him and I was like, okay, and that was it. And I never looked back. You know, here comes the story of I was at the bottom and now I'm at the top. But ultimately that's what it was. You know, I worked my way up slowly. I don't feel like anything was really given to me. I earned it and I never wanted to give it back. I didn't want somebody coming and taking my spot. I didn't want to go back to scout team. I wanted to, be the guy who was getting all the accolades and notoriety and be a part of this tremendous thing we had going at SC. And I mean, that's ultimately in a nutshell kind of how I began really kind of exploding on the scene.
Did you have any doubts leading up to the draft, or were you just sort of riding the wave and staying in the moment?
Yeah, I think I was just riding the wave. I mean, I don't, fortunately, none of that creeped into my mind. I remember going to Indianapolis where we had the combine, and I was so excited to be there. I mean, you gotta understand, I was, as we talked about, I was scout team, this and that. So for me, I think I was lined up with like 27 of the 32 teams. There was no agenda by me. I just was like, yes, sir. Oh, okay. This is who I am, and it was just like, it was so much fun. You go from that, or maybe the Senior Bowl, whatever order it was. I mean, it just was thrown at me, and I welcomed it. I loved it. And so I had no idea where I was going to get drafted. I felt like I had the potential to go first round, despite my resume, which was rather incomplete. I felt like I had all the tools needed to succeed. And, for me, I fortunately didn't have those doubts. It wasn't until you get to the league and you have you have the injuries and the this and the ups and the downs, do you start, do those start setting in.
It's just an incredible story. The former walk-on basically just willing himself into the top of the NFL draft. So at that point, what were you hearing from teams about how high you might potentially go?
So for me, I think there was a shot that I could end up 10 to 15 because, Denver ran a 3-4 and they had 2 draft picks and, the Patriots and this and that. And the 26th pick was up and the Patriots were up. And I thought for sure they had no pass rush. And ultimately they traded that pick away to Cleveland. I hardly remember, but I get a call like, this is so-and-so with the Green Bay Packers. I'm like, okay. I remember agent telling me like, yeah, act like everybody's calling you and hey, they better draft you. So I'm like, okay. And they're like, up and draft it. Okay. And they're like, we're going to do that right now. All right. And they're like, okay, great. You're a Green Bay Packer. That's great. Like I just like it was just so surreal and just the moment just flew past. But funny story, my mom thought for the first 10 minutes I was drafted to New England. So when she had heard that I was drafted to Green Bay, she was so upset for me. She's like, no, not Green Bay. I mean, I didn't even know where Wisconsin was on a map. Like a SoCal kid with what's the Midwest? No, thank you. But oh, it was great. It was great.
So you show up in your board shorts and your surfboard.
Yeah, long hair, just out the window.
When did the long hair start? Did that start at the end of SC or did that not start?
That started at the end of SC. It was me. It was all the linebackers. We all had long hair, and I don't know if we all just kind of decided that we were going to grow long hair, if that was our little thing that we did. But we all just kind of grew our hair long. And I figured, why not? And now literally my hair is still long just because I have not cut it yet. And I keep telling me, oh, you got to cut it. But then, some endorsement deal will come ringing in and I'm 3 years removed from playing. And I'm like, I'm not naive to the fact that it sells. So yeah, that's how the hair came to be. But landing in Green Bay in April, whenever it was, I'd never seen so much green before. I mean, it was unbelievable. And there was no traffic. The people were super friendly. And, as you're familiar from playing at Lambeau, I mean, the stadium literally backs up to people's homes. It was amazing. It was beautiful.
People always ask me favorite place to play on the road. I always say Lambeau. Obviously the storied history there, but the fans are so amazing. The energy of that place is just so great. And just, the feeling of that stadium. And you could tell too, the players carry it as well. When did that sort of hit you? Obviously the legacy of that place, but there really is this kind of palpable energy about it that it's hard to describe.
Unfortunately, like many things in life, it's not until it's gone do you truly appreciate it. I mean, you hear of Brett Favre and Ray Nitschke and Bart Starr, some of these these athletes that came before you, some of these players, you know, you hear names like Sterling Sharp and Reggie White and this and that. So yeah, I mean, it was a truly an iconic venue. And my favorite place, obviously, you know, Lambeau is Soldier Field out there in Chicago, because of that, you just kind of feel it. You know, you think of like the videos they play with Dick Butkus, and we were, you know, when I started playing, it was Urlacher, Briggs, Julius Peppers was, I know he's in Carolina first, but he was, you know, he came over there, and you're just, I mean, and those fans are mean. I mean, they're mean down there, but they respect the rivalry. And I think as I got older, you learn, you appreciate certain fan bases because of, you know, what they mean to the team and what the team means to them.
What was your welcome to the NFL moment?
And I want to say it was week 4. It was kind of, it's still, I think it's arguably my favorite play ever of my NFL career. We're playing Brett Favre at the Metrodome. And this is the first time he's playing the Packers after having gone and played with the Jets. And I'm lined up in front of Klein Saucer, tight end for the Vikings at the time, just looks like a Viking himself. And I got Brett Favre at quarterback and Adrian Peterson in the backfield. And I'm like, whoa, this is pretty cool. I remember they ran a play to my side, and I stripped the ball out from Adrian Peterson. I ran it back. And I just remember that feeling when I ran into the end zone. I just felt like I was just, you know, running on air, and I just chucked the ball up in the stands. And it was kind of my welcome to the NFL moment. Listen, we've all had our, you know, where we've been flat back, pancake, blindsided, welcome to the NFL. But that one, no, I like to say that's my welcome to the NFL moment. That's my, hey, you know what, you've arrived moment.
You were a guy I remember playing against in the NFL where you could play hard, you know, hit the shit out of somebody, still smile, you know, crack jokes. I've always loved playing against guys like that. They make the game fun. You know, they remind you of what we're doing for a living. When did you start getting into that kind of rhythm and that kind of personality?
I think I kind of grew up a little bit of the class clown. I've always been that guy. I like to make people laugh and I like to have fun, but I don't let that get in the way of what I want to accomplish.
Sure.
I really enjoyed that, and I loved playing against guys who did the same. It's so much fun because you're doing something that's truly remarkable that very few people can do. So have some fun with it. I hated the guys that were like, oh, kick your ass. You're just like, oh, relax, buddy. All right, relax. Like, we're all having fun out here. Let's just, you know, try and make the most of it. So for me, I don't know where that came from. I think it was just kind of, I was able to separate, you know, being the funny guy with also still doing my job at a high level.
You played with Rodgers a long time. I obviously didn't play with Aaron, but I've gotten to know him a little bit, and I really have enjoyed my time with him. Tell me what kind of guy Aaron was like playing with when you got there to the time that you left.
I always equate Aaron to Kobe in the sense that he wants to crush you. He wants to dominate you. His competitive spirit is greater than anyone else that I've been around. And growing up in LA and kind of watching, you know, Kobe win these championships and watch his demeanor and how he goes about, you know, his whole Mamba mentality, Aaron very much reminds me of him. And when it came to kind of passing down, you know, bringing people along with him, you have to seek him out in order to get on the same page. You know, you hear some of these rah-rah guys, come on guys, let's do this, let's do that. It's like, no. Aaron demands perfection, and you need to take it upon yourself to be perfect. That way, when you guys are, you know, on the same page, you guys are absolutely clicking, and you need to seek him out if you need any help, if you need to get on the same page. But man, just a tremendous competitor, and what he's able to do with the ball. I mean, the throws obviously you see on game day are truly remarkable, but the ones in practice that are never aired, that aren't, you know, televised and whatnot, there's no one who can do what he's able to do with the football. I mean, you see the new age quarterbacks, the Mahomes and the Josh Allens, and they're absolutely talented, and they could left-handed, right-handed, underhand. But I mean, with the flick of a wrist, Aaron can put it anywhere he wants to on the field. And you knew whether your starting receiver was down, whether your defense was sick, whatever it was, you had a chance each and every game and each and every year. Ultimately, you knew when you had him, it just was this level of excitement knowing you have the best of the best at that position, the most important position in football. And he was going to give you the best shot to win another Super Bowl and be the best team that you guys can be.
You know, I've heard some players talk about playing with Kobe. They really, really understood what he was trying to do and respected it. And some guys thought Kobe was an asshole and just were just on a different level in terms of what it takes to win and mentality. Did you ever feel any of that in the locker room? Were there guys that had a problem with sort of Aaron's pursuit for perfection?
I think anybody who did, wasn't with the team very long. I think, because Aaron had so much clout and had established himself as, the MVP, really, if you didn't jive with it, that was your problem, and I think you hear more of that from Aaron nowadays in regards to the media. But as far as the people in the locker room, I mean, it's a solid group, that obviously backs him up. And like I said, he's the best. So there's just no point in questioning anything that he does.
Is Aaron a big speech guy?
Speech guy? No.
Does he give a lot of talks? Did you have any of those guys on the team?
You know what's
guys that like to make sure they gave the stoic Lombardi type speeches?
We had a really good group of guys. Like, Charles would speak when it was necessary, and Aaron as well. But I wasn't a big speaker at all. And I think a lot of that stemmed from the fact that I was never looked at as that guy. I kind of worked my way up. So why was I going to, pretend to be this, guys, we need to do this. It wasn't in my nature to do that. But the worst was and this is just my, I'm sure some players loved it, but McCarthy at the time would he would pick like 3 captains, like new captains every week. And usually you might get picked one time, obviously, but sometimes twice. And he'd pick one of the 3 captains to give a speech. And man, I dreaded it so much. I could not stand it because I'm literally going on like the week before. I'm just I was panicking more so than the game because who am I going to say to these guys? Because I come from the mindset that if you don't have what it takes and you don't have the inner wherewithal to know what's at stake, I can't help you. But I can't say that to the team. So every time I gave a speech once a year, I was just inside I was dying a little bit because I would probably I was on my phone looking at inspirational quote speeches. I just felt listen, man, you either have it or you don't. You know what I mean? You can't get a team to go out there and play some game on that. But yeah, today's generation is interesting with some of these pregame speeches and whatnot. But they're fun, and if that's how they need to get themselves going, then so be it.
Going back to the hypothetical of Clay Matthews, the front office man, what is your philosophy? What are your thoughts on drafting and signing guys based on the system that you run, or building a system around the talent that you have that's available to you?
Well, I found that I had my most success when the D coordinators who I had played for understood the talents in the room and put them in the best position possible to succeed. I know, we've talked about Charles enough here, but Charles in 2009 won defensive MVP, and Dom Capers, old school 3-4 guru, had Charles coming from everywhere. He was blitzing up the A gap. He was coming off the edge. He was lining up in the nickel, the slot.
Right.
Corner, safety, you name it. He did such a great job moving him around, and it was no different with me as well. I mean, when you're a pass rusher, sometimes you can you're obviously on an island, but you start having backs, chip, tight ends lined up in front of you. They can take you out of your game where you can't impact the game as much. Dom did a fantastic job. He'd put me at, middle backer. He'd put me in the slot. He would put me on the left side, right side, line me up over the guard, the center. And I felt like, you created little mismatches there. And then, the lineman is sliding one way and creating there's just so much confusion trying to put your premier players in the best position possible to make plays. So I guess that's a long-winded way of saying that I think the scheme needs to be built around your playmakers and what they are great at. You look at Micah Parsons in Dallas. He's lining up, as an inside backer. He's on the edge. He's doing this and that, and it's you have generational talent like that or just a talent in general, you need to figure out a way to get them involved in the game more so than their individual position.
What in your mind, you've been around a lot of great teams at different levels. This is something I'm always curious and asking a lot about, and super interested in, of like how different programs consistently win more than others. Green Bay was always a place like that. Obviously, New England. What was, in your mind, aside from the obvious, having a franchise quarterback, a big factor for a lot of the success you guys had?
Well, I think a lot of it is the chemistry amongst the team. You know, I spent 10 years in Green Bay and 1 year in LA. And I remember McVay was this new hot young coach, just took his team to the Super Bowl. And, I just signed with them. When we got in front of the room, I was like, I get it. He's 33 years old. We're the same age. How does this work? Because I had just come from McCarthy, who was from Pittsburgh, and it was very much coach and player. And now you have someone who's the same age as you, and we had a lot of personalities on that team. I mean, it was Goff at quarterback, Gurley, Aqib Talib, Marcus Peters, Aaron Donald. I mean, you go down the list, and there was
Whitworth.
a number.
Was Whitworth there yet?
Yeah, Whitworth was on the team. A number of personalities, egos, and man, he was able to bring it all together. And I really think it's the culture of the team. And sometimes when there's just too much turnover and you kind of lose that chemistry that one another has, where you play for, one another, but you just you have this, like, I got your back, you got mine. Offense complements the defense, and vice versa. And at the end of the day, like, you can have fun, but we're here for a specific reason, and it's to win ball games, get our job done, perform at the highest level. So there's this fine line where, you don't need a coach who's MF in their players the whole time. You want to feel like you're on the same page. And listen, for right or wrong, so much has changed with the players, and if entitle's the right word, how they're coming out, how they want to be coached, how they want to be treated. But you've seen a lot of that change in the age of the coaches that are being hired. I mean, there are ages right now. When you have that kind of peer-to-peer relationship, I feel like that's where a player truly feels like they might be letting down their coach if they don't fulfill their end of the bargain. And obviously on the flip side of that, a coach no doubt feels that when you're not winning ball games or putting your team in not the best position possible to win.
Well, right. That's a good point. So what's the chicken or the egg part of that? Can you have fun because you're winning, or are you winning because you're having fun?
It's hard to say because there's a fine line. I mean, it when you see it, when, hey, maybe the music needs to be turned down. Maybe this needs to happen. I'm with you on that, but I think it's both. It's not just, you need a good coach and you need a good team. Green Bay did a very good job. I know Ted Thompson, who has since passed, he took a lot of, he was our GM at the time for drafting and developing, but man, that's how we got a ton of these guys, the Jordy Nelsons and so many other players who helped us establish this long line of success. And of course, we were only able to win one Super Bowl. So, with a team like Green Bay, I guess you'd say that's a failure. But
I don't know. I think it's kind of like what you said about Aaron, which is like I think as a fan or a player, you just want to have a chance. You just want your team to have a chance. I think everybody knows how hard it is to win. What about the balance of older guys and younger guys? Because kind of what you were saying about turning the music down, it feels like there's also an unspoken awareness by a team that has more experienced players that know when to teach the rest of the team when those moments are and when they aren't.
And that's been tough lately, is with, several years ago when they changed, the cap and the veteran minimum and whatnot, that veterans are very much expendable. That's pretty much why I'm not playing anymore, to get a rookie contract who's making a few $100,000. But the problem is, you lose that leadership, you lose that moxie of that player who's able to lead and who understands, like you had said, when there's music playing, it's not time to, dance and do this. I mean, there's obviously you can have fun and whatnot, but there's a time and place for all that. And it's the older players who know when it's time to turn on and when you can kind of back off, and the younger players they needed to respect that. I know, like when I came in and watched Woodson and how he practiced and how he prepared, I logged in the extra hours. And I remember, at the end of the day, everyone's rushing to get out of there. It was Charles, it was Aaron, it was this, that guy. And it made sense why the guys who were playing up to a decade and longer were still at the facilities watching film, in the ice bath, in the sauna. They were investing in themselves, and ultimately that paid off. So it's tough.
And not even knowing teaching the younger guys how to do it.
100%. I know when I went to LA, I played with, I think everybody was like 3 years or younger, and I'm in year 11. And I made sure, and I took it upon myself that whenever I was in there, I ramped it up a little bit with individual drills, being at every practice, because the second you start letting that slip, you're doing a disservice to the other guys. And I feel like that's intrinsic to having a vet on the team, a vet who's, a playmaker, but who means so much to that locker room. I remember, and I'm just kind of watching Aaron Donald, this guy would train so hard after practice, just this jacked monster. And all these young D linemen want to be just like him. And he might have not been doing that just to bring them along, but just by doing what he was doing, he was bringing this generation of D linemen who were coming in there to be like him, to model their game after him. And it's not a coincidence, why he's so dominant and so good. It's because of the work he's putting in, the way he practices, and yes, to take this thing full circle, there's that fine line between old heads and young guys, young players.
It's a funny game, the NFL, man. You put a lot of love into it, and then towards the end of it, doesn't love you back, and you got to ultimately deal with your mortality. I know we've all gone through it. How have you dealt with it? What was that like for you? I know you probably would have loved to have finished in Green Bay.
Yeah, I don't know how it ended. I remember I texted you because you had just finished. I think I had asked something along like, how do you know when it's tired? Should I keep, if you're having these things or whatever, and I think you said like, keep playing as long as you can or something along those lines. And so for me, when I went to LA, after 10 years, I felt a little, resurgence. I felt new energy, new life. It was nice to kind of prove myself again. And I grew up in Southern California, so I was close to home. And we had a decent year. We missed the playoffs though, but I thought I played very well that year. I broke my jaw. I missed 3 games, but I came back and finished exceptionally strong. And I didn't sign for a lot of money. I had an offer elsewhere to go actually play in Baltimore, who finished the season 14-2. So maybe I made the wrong decision there. But ultimately, I felt like I had a great year. And McVay had called and said, "Hey, we're going to be letting you go." I was like, What? You must have the wrong number. Ultimately, I had offers immediately thereafter. Denver was interested, Seattle. Pete called me literally the day as I'm like processing all this, like, "Hey, how do you feel?" Just right on the recruiting trail. I just felt like it was just time to step away. And to the point in which you said, I still felt like I had something in the gas tank. I still felt like I could contribute to a team, but I didn't feel like it was going to change the quality of my life, leaving my family, just being a stopgap guy and then possibly going to another team. Now, the flip side of that is, I proved myself. I get another 2-year deal and continue on down the road because I felt good. I didn't have any crazy injuries. I felt like I was playing fast and I was having fun. But, until you're in that position where, teams either don't want you or the offers aren't what you expect them to be, do you have to make that decision? And for me, I felt like I was in a position where I was just sliding into that stay-at-home dad role, so to speak. All of a sudden, I was picking up the kids from school. I was helping them get them off to classes and sports and whatnot. And I just felt like, now's the time to kind of step away, even if it's a little premature.
But what if Green Bay called and the offer was good?
Well, the thing about Green Bay was the way in which it ended. They had brought in 2 pass rushers in free agency, paid them big money, and they had drafted with the 12th overall pick, I think it was, another pass rusher. So that wasn't going to happen. But Joe Barry, who was the middle linebacker coach in LA, we hit it off. He's a SC guy. And he became the D coordinator for the Packers. And he had called me up like a week before, I want to say it was the 2021 season, seeing if I was interested. I'm like, that would be pretty cool, if nothing else, just, one final year to go out and just, have a blast and just, kind of just the farewell tour. And I was like, hey, I'm ready if you need me. But it sounded like management wasn't really in favor of that.
All right, so we'll chalk it up to the doors. Still kind of, it's pretty closed, but there's like a little crack.
No. The doors closed now. I had to do some media early this year, and I was like, yeah, I'm done. Like, I'm done. Like,
what about the 1-day contract retire thing? Did you do that?
So
or no?
I don't understand that. I truly don't understand that. Like, what's the point? What's the point?
So when somebody asks, where did you retire? You say you retired with that team.
Listen, okay,
I didn't do it. I haven't done it. So
what team? Okay, but are you
going
going to know me as an LA Ram or are you going to know me as a Green Bay Packer? You'll be a Carolina Panther. Like, just because you were done playing in New York, that has no bearing on who you are and your number that you had and everything else in the accomplishments.
But what if it's important to the fans though?
Is it?
I think so. Isn't that why they do it?
Well, that's my question is, I don't know. I like to question things, it's like social media and whatnot, but I'm sure I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I'm sure at some point, Green Bay will invite me back.
So if they say, hey, Clay, we'd love for you to sign a 1-day contract so you can retire a Packer, you're going to say, sorry, I might sound like a prick, but it's not going to happen.
No, that's not the case. But
what's the point?
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I don't think teams ask. Well, I guess that's my question. Do players, do they beg the GM who cut them?
I've heard it both ways. I won't name names, but I've heard it both ways. I've heard players it's really important to them. And I've heard teams say, hey, it's important to us that you come home and we celebrate you and make you.
If a team's, if Green Bay says that, absolutely, because I truly enjoyed my time in Green Bay, and there's no hard feelings towards anyone there. Obviously, it's the manner in which it ended at the end wasn't ideal, but ultimately, from the parking attendants to the person who helped my parents get up the elevator to their seats, just everything. People in the back who sew my jersey a certain way. I mean, it is truly a remarkable organization. I can't wait to go back there at some point, but. Yeah, I'm sure if they call and they say, hey, it's really important that you come, sure, not a problem. But that invite hasn't been extended. I don't think it changes anything that I was able to accomplish in my 10 years there. And I don't think if I did or did not, it would change anything. But that is a question I get asked, are you going to retire there? Maybe. I don't. Did you? You said no, right? So nobody's asked me.
No, I'm in the same boat as you. If they ask me, yeah, but I'm not looking for it.
Actively seeking. Yeah, I guess I'm in that boat too, where it's like I'm not going to actively go there just to retire a Packer, because everybody knows what I did there and hopefully what I meant to the team and organization. But ultimately, I do care about my legacy and whatnot. I don't want to spite the fans if this is what they want.
Well, buddy, hell of a career for a former walk-on. So proud of you. Love you. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Yeah, you bet. Well, before signing off too, I just got to say, right? I always say this when, like I told my wife, I was like, it was Ryan Khalil. And I was like, man, he was probably one of a handful of guys who was nice to me when I was just some pissant walk-on at SC. You know how it is, the dichotomy in sports, and whether it's professional and you're either a free agent to a first-round pick, but especially a walk-on to, a starting center for the number one team in the nation. You guys didn't have to be as nice as you were to me and as cool as you guys were, because there was quite a few who weren't. And I'm not, this isn't a woe is me thing, but I do appreciate you taking me under your wing at the time and being so gracious with me and helping me out along the way. And I'll always appreciate that from you there, Ryan. So thank you very much. Glad you had me on. I hope I gave you some good content.
I had a blast, buddy. All right, I'll see you up in Tennessee. Get out on that farm.
All right, take care. See ya.
You can listen to Block Forever and other sports content on Audible. Audible is the home of storytelling, audiobooks, originals, podcasts, and more. Start listening free at audible.com. Hope you enjoy hearing Clay's story. I certainly did. I have the ultimate respect for that guy. Huge thanks to you, Clay, for coming on. Reminder, Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime. This week, it's Jags at Jets. All right, everyone, enjoy the holidays. And of course, if you have an old lineman in your life, make sure to overdo it with the gifts. We have a long memory of these kinds of things. Have a great week, everyone. Talk soon. This has been an Audible original production of Block Forever, produced by Fresh Produce and Audiorama. Matt Waxman is our lead producer. Sound design and edit by Kenny Holmes. Our producers are Kenny Holmes and Matt Schrader. Production assistant Ben Gerstel. And our talent booker is Kristen Dunn. For Audible, executive producer Pat Shaw. For Audiorama, the executive producer, well, that's me, Ryan Khalil. For Fresh Produce Media, executive producers Colin Moore, Joe Killian, and Jason Ross. Head of production, Elena Bobbins. Our supervising producer is Jamila Zara Williams. Production coordinator, Henry Koch. And our production manager is Herminio Ochoa. Special thanks to Powerhouse Capital and Mikey Fowler. And I'm your host, Ryan Khalil. Copyright 2022 by Audiorama Inc. Sound recording copyright 2022 by Audible Originals LLC.